So, friends, thanks for joining in. This is our third roundtable on sort of data-inspired urbanism. We've had a session around city design and e-mobility, and also artificial intelligence and e-mobility. Today, we tackle 5G and city design. Before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the First Nations people as the original inhabitants of the land of which I'm participating in today, which is in Brisbane, and I recognise the country north and south of the Brisbane River as home for both the Turrbal and Jagera nations, and pay deep respect to their elders past, present and future. We will be recording this session for our friends that weren't able to join. If you're in a place or space that may be subject to background noise, please exercise the mute function that you have access to. Use the chat box, please, as we work through the conversation. And we'll be doing just a little bit of survey, so a keyboard will be required. We do have a couple of folks that have dialed in on the phone, but for those that are in front of a device that can input, we will be doing a little bit of survey work. Just a couple of introductory points. While I'm going through those, I might just get you to drop your name and organisation in the chat box, just so you can sort of say hi to everyone. We won't be going around the group, but just your name and organisation will be great. And a little bit of scene setting, the future of place. Many of you are familiar with what we're doing with that project and are heavily involved. Others may not necessarily be. We're really, through the Future of Place project, looking at the evolving relationship between people, place, technology and data. It's a very much an evolving sort of set of relationships, but also one that's happening at swift pace. We've got some core goals: explore that relationship and that change, share knowledge and insights as much as possible around what we're seeing and feeling and thinking with respect to those evolving relationships. We ultimately want to get to a place where we can provide some guidance to help nurture the change in a productive and positive way. And that guidance really will come in the form of a handbook that will allow us to enhance our policy and practice. And so the Future of Place handbook is the ultimate output of the Future of Place project, 2-year project that we're sort of year one, halfway through at the moment. More info on that, if anyone is interested, you can head to the website futureofplace.global. But for now, the topic of today, and as I mentioned in the intro, this is sort of the third roundtable topic that we're tackling. And what we've done with these roundtables is sort of pick a topic where we think technology and data is coming together with place. And we're particularly interested in thinking about the place and the design elements of the particular technology and data disruptor or enabler. And today it's 5G. And of course, there's many different elements to 5G. And it's certainly a place issue. It's an infrastructure issue. It's a community engagement issue. It's been sort of a long time coming for some. I think for others, it's still not necessarily being appreciated as much as it could. What we know is that at the Smart Cities Council, we believe it's a fantastic opportunity for prosperity in the region across Australia and New Zealand. It's not just sort of flicking a switch to go from 4G to 5G. A whole new infrastructure set comes with 5G. And that's great in terms of the promise and the outcomes, ultimately, what it can do across different sectors and industries. But that comes from a place perspective. It comes with some challenges as well. with that new infrastructure set comes a whole range of components that need to go somewhere. And we would all, I would imagine, on the line here, agree that, you know, we want great places for people, and the streetscape, we want it to be sort of maintained and enhanced. We all want street trees to, you know, serve the function that they do across, you know, many outcomes and benefits. But again, 5G comes with a new urban infrastructure set. So we're going to today have a conversation together around what we're seeing, thinking, and feeling. And we kick off these roundtables with a little bit of expert commentary to sort of get things going. We then use a little bit of survey work to get some views. And really what we do for the second half is open it up and have a conversation together. And very selfishly, the Smart Cities Council use our knowledge sharing and exchange today to help feed into the Future of Place project, help us identify priorities and opportunities and issues. And indeed, we hope along the way that as participants, you also get to gather some intelligence as well. So those goals we hope will sort of play out today, and we'll kick things off with our expert commentary, as we do on each of the roundtables. Today, I've invited Bob Matchett from AnyHub to join us to provide some perspectives on this topic. I'll let Bob do his own intro. I can't do it justice, but I could have chosen many potential sort of expert commentators to come in and have a sort of a chat with us on this roundtable today. I like Bob's balance in views of both the technology, how the technology delivers us data and insights to make better decisions. But for his sins, Bob's also dabbled very heavily and has a background in industrial design. So he understands and he appreciates the quality of good design. And so 5G and the quality of good design in the public realm is sort of really the heart of the conversation here. So Bob, would love to hand it over to you now. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome, and look forward to hearing your thoughts on the topic to get us going today.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks everyone for taking the time. I'm not going to present. I'm just going to deliver some of my views, and then, as Adam has pointed out, we'll open it up to a conversation. As the CEO of AnyHub, we are enabling we're enabling smart city outcomes for cities. We have contracts all up and down the east coast of New South Wales, in Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. We work with all of the carriers. We're carrier agnostic, and we work with all technologies in terms of sensors and the Internet of Things, if you like. So the perspective I bring in relation to 5G and city design is, firstly, as an industrial designer, design is very dear to my heart in all of its forms. In terms of our public spaces, it's an absolute passion of mine to contribute to high quality public spaces. But as a result, and I've seen a need in helping councils and cities get ahead of the curve in terms of how to manage 4G, 5G, 6G, and the Internet of Things in order to deliver the technology and data-driven benefits for people. So that's the perspective I bring, and I'm obviously hopeful that my views are informative and promote some good conversation amongst us. So just in terms of city design, I'm not an urban planner, but design is central, and I find it a positive and motivating aspect of the world we live in. Good cities, good places are places where people are safe and can move around easily. We can all communicate, where services are delivered efficiently, and that resources are applied effectively. That environmentally sustainable practices are deployed. And importantly, cities have to be resilient. They have to be able to adapt and change and recover quickly. Great cities have great public spaces. These spaces need to be open and flexible spaces. They're there for people. They should not be filled by, the next gadget or the next, short-sighted or short design life outcome. That they need to be, just good experiences for people. But we're all expecting the ubiquitous delivery of services and the ubiquitous delivery of connectivity. So smart infrastructure, flexible and future-proofed and upgradable infrastructure, they're all buzzwords, but they're all possible. If I can speak a little about 5G now and my understanding and my experience with it, having, we are actively working with all of the carriers right now about their 5G programs and planning. It's the 5th generation of networks. It's about more data, faster data, lower latency outcomes, and it is just the next generation in networks. And it's not a matter of turning 4G off and turning 5G on. We've still got 3G network. So a short history: 2G was delivering about 1 megabit per second, gave us some voice and text. 3G, 21 megabits a second, which delivered some multimedia and some streaming. 4G, 100 megabits. We're now live streaming and watching the Wallabies versus France anywhere we want to watch it. But then 5G just turns the volume right up, 1 to 10 gigabits a second, and just completely changes the game in relation to how much data can be moved around. The network we will operate in will be a mix of 3G, 4G, and 5G for a while. 3G will be dropped off and recycled into 5G, and then 6G will come along, and then 4G will be dropped off, and so on. And such is the way of the networks that we operate. Millimeter wave is the next wave, pardon the pun, and it is about delivering the full potential of 5G, but it's a more fragile piece of spectrum. All of the carriers have just bought this spectrum off the government and are now actively planning on how to deliver it. The fragility of that spectrum means that it can't go around corners the way 3G and 4G can. It can't bend. It needs to be line of sight, and the distances, the actual pieces of equipment becomes lower, and the height at which those pieces of equipment need to be mounted needs to be lower. So it's a big step. There's a couple of things going on right now. There's the upgrade of the macro towers to 5G equipment, which no one's really noticing, but it's also not delivering very efficient spectrum. The next step is to deliver 5G down at a lower level, like a 7 to 9 meter level, and with equipment needing to be at 25 to 50 meters in spacing. Like 4G, it'll take a period of years for 5G to fully integrate into our society and into our outcomes, but it's happening. The equipment's being rolled out, the applications are being developed, the use cases are being developed, and over the next few years, those use cases will explode, and they won't be personal use cases. Like 4G was about, you and me and my device and what I can get and what I can access. 5G will be about business and education and health and transport. It will integrate into society in a significant way. But as Adam alluded to in the introduction, the reality of delivering wireless connectivity in a city and the reality of that for city design is that 4G and 5G requires equipment, and it requires radios and antennas, and it requires fiber connectivity and power. each one of these interventions, they're being placed into our cities, right now. And obviously, if we had the joy or the opportunity of delivering another Canberra, and we could start, with a greenfield site, we could deal with that. But we're not. We're operating in built environments, and we need to be able to, well, firstly, forecast what's coming, but then design into our cities ways of managing, what we're talking about. The connectivity will be demanded. Our appetite for data and application and services has increased exponentially, over the last 10, 12 years, and there's no sign of it stopping. But that data is now, it's becoming an essential service, and that connectivity is becoming an essential service. So it's coming. We need to prepare. There's lots of, but we don't just need to prepare in Sydney CBD or Melbourne CBD or Brisbane CBD. We have to prepare in the suburbs and in the regions. And I personally, and my view as it's playing out, believe that shared infrastructure is the key. And what that means is, we can't just keep putting a conduit in the ground for Ausgrid, and then putting a conduit and then coming along later and putting a conduit in the ground for the city, and then for Telstra to come along and put its fibre in, and Optus to come along and put its fibre in. And then have each of those parties deploying, their bits of equipment that delivers their essential service into our public spaces in an uncontrolled and unmanaged way. It's unsustainable and not going to deliver the cities and the public spaces that we demand. So shared infrastructure is key. It's a massive challenge. Big companies don't like sharing. I don't know what it is about, if it's a flaw in human nature or a flaw in corporate nature. They don't like sharing. So lots of thinking and communicating around, and it gets driven by need. And now cities aren't allowing, cities and councils are not allowing these companies to just have their way with their places. That they can find that they have powers to obstruct and delay and frustrate some of these things, and it's those, and it's that pushback that's actually opening the door to acceptance of shared infrastructure, and that's absolutely something that Enerhub's been working on for the last 8 years, and we're now making significant ground. We're now working collaboratively. Cities have always embraced Enerhub's message because it is about high-level urban outcomes, shared and future-proofed infrastructure. But it's the utilities and the carriers that are now embracing the same messaging and the same narrative because they see it as, well, at a very basic level, it's giving them faster access to premium places. But at another level, they're genuinely getting on board with the social need to deliver better outcomes in our cities. So when you combine the demands, when you look at what we want from a good city and what is good city design, and then you combine that, and then you overlay what's coming and what's happening with 4G and 5G, and then you overlay the Internet of Things and our demand for other types of data and other types of services, from environmental sensing and people counting, vehicle counting, and electric vehicle car charging, and that list is long. When you overlay all of that, we have to be thinking about the interventions we make in our public spaces. So from a city design perspective, it's not about what we're delivering today. It's about making sure that what we're doing in the ground has capacity. It's about making sure that what we do above the ground has capacity and is as anonymous and as discreet as possible. And you know, I really think that's you know, we as people that affect public space and city design every day, these are the things that I think we need to be thinking about. 5G is coming, but city design can't be compromised, you know, because of it. We want to deliver the connectivity and the services and the efficiencies, but city design, you know, shouldn't be compromised, you know, by wanting to embrace that. So they're my views. They're my overarching views, Adam, in relation to, you know, the convergence of or trying to make these two things work together: city design and delivering 5G. I normally have lots of slides, but I thought this time I would just chat away.
It was great, Bob. Thank you. Lots of great points in there. What I'd like to quickly do is just ask a few questions, get a sense of who we've got in the room, and then we're going to sort of get some more free flow Q&A going. For those of you that aren't familiar with Menti, it's one of those platforms, web-based platforms, online survey. You can scan the QR code there, or you can just jump into a browser on your device, menti.com. It'll ask for a code. Hopefully, you plug in that code, and what will come up will be a little survey, interface. I'm just going to bring up on the screen. Going to bring up on the screen the results that are coming through here. So I'm starting with just a quick question. Who's in the room? Your primary profession. You can see predominantly there I've got sort of city design related professions. I was interested to see sort of how many of those or who were potentially in the room, but the get out of jail card is other for those that may not neatly fit into those other categories. So again, menti.com in your browser. And the code, you can see it there. It's at the top of the screen on this slide here, 68437250. Don't be shy in jumping
Sorry,
in.
Adam, could you call that out again, the code?
The code is 6843.
Yep.
7250. Sorry, Catherine, I forgot that you're on the phone. I was going pretty quickly.
That's fine. Thanks a lot. Okay.
No worries at all. No worries at all. So I'm just getting a sense of the type of folks we have around the table. I'll just leave that there for another few more seconds as people get in. We have some spread there in terms of some city shaping professions policy. And also some other. Okay, I now go to the next question. Where are you at with 5G? Very big, broad statement question. On the far right, you've got observer only. You're sort of interested. You're all in. Never touched it, never will. Maybe you're tinkering with it from a research perspective, an advisory perspective, or you're sort of sitting waiting for the right time. Certainly we've got some passionate all-in 5G advocates on the line. Okay. Let me go to the next question, and then we're going to pause and have a more broader conversation. And I'm also going to invite you to ask Bob any questions. This is an interesting one. Normally it would potentially be pitched as, where's the 5G opportunity? So I flipped the question here and said, where's the city design opportunity with 5G? So you've heard from Bob and, you know, my comments around a new infrastructure set coming. I suppose the provocative way of doing this is, you know, how is 5G going to support great city design outcomes? So this is a free form text, this one. Keen to sort of maybe get you to drop a few notes into the survey input fields. Where might the city design opportunity be with 5G? I know that's a challenging one because inherently we think that it's potentially going to be bad because there's going to be all this new clutter in the streetscape. But I suppose this is the challenge that we're putting forward. You know, what's the real city design opportunity here? 5G as an enabler in the public realm. Some good comments coming through there with the first one in there: innovation, mobility, equal opportunity, new revenue opportunities. We've certainly seen and heard about some entrepreneurial like local authorities that are certainly have done their homework and sort of thinking of opportunities. Bob, as these come up, would love your thoughts on what resonates. You know, where would you put your thumbs up here on some of these comments that are coming up?
I think that I like that they're generally positive. The one that's a concern or is a question around, you know, about a tower in every suburban street. I guess that relate. I think yes, that there will be equipment in every suburban street, but it doesn't need to be a tower. You know, the revenue potential of 5G is massive. The carriers, their assets are their number one asset is their network, and if to deliver their network, they need to, you know, pay money to service their clients, then that's a real and tangible and here and now revenue source. There's been a lot of talk about smart city being commercially sustainable. 5G can be the first massive step into making smart city commercially sustainable. The other revenue streams from smart city aren't mature yet. You know, there's no doubt that 5G will enhance services and improve efficiencies and make security more effective. Like there's all kinds of artificial intelligence platforms now that you know, require massive bandwidth, but deliver significant security enhancements. Yeah, and I think there's agreement that we need to design for this outcome. That we can't just let it happen to us. So.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just pause for a moment. I'd like to open the floor back to Bob's sort of opening statements. Questions, comments, reactions. Would you like to ask him a question? Opening the floor now. You can shout out, take yourself off mute, put your hand up. Jeff got the hand up there virtually. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Thanks, Bob. That was a fantastic opening. Yeah, it's really interesting what's happening with 5G and a couple of questions. One is probably an easy one for you to answer, is about the connectivity in very sustainable buildings. My understanding is that the more sustainable the building envelope, the more difficult it is for a 5G signal to get into the building. So one, is that true? And two, what's the fix on that? Is it just about having closer placements or booster equipment inside the building asset?
I haven't heard that more sustainable buildings are harder to achieve coverage in. So I'm not saying that's not true. It's just not something that I've heard. But in-building coverage is a whole other area of network design. And the more I learn about network design, the less I the less I know. But the in-building coverage is a whole other aspect of network design. What I've heard or what I know is, in terms of getting coverage for public spaces, carriers are offering free Wi-Fi in buildings, but then building in 5G radios into the Wi-Fi units, so that 5G coverage spills out onto the street. That same unit delivers in-building coverage. So in-building is key and critical. Like, we spend a lot of time in buildings, so there's got to be coverage there, not just in the public spaces. So it's dealt with by a different kind of equipment, but the opportunities in buildings, there's more opportunities in buildings to deploy or hide that equipment, to deliver that coverage. But I'll check out what you've said about the more sustainable buildings being a bit tougher.
Yeah, I mean,
my
understanding is millimeter wave can't penetrate glass and other kind of facade-like materials. So, as you say, Bob, it's a whole new network design and deployment internally as well, which just opens up another sort of set of questions, doesn't it? Good question, Jeff. Daniel's got his hands up. Daniel, over to you.
Hello. Yeah, I suppose thinking about 5G in terms of, in one way it's what we already have, but it's just a much, much larger amount of data that can be pushed around very quickly. Are there any views on how sort of lifestyles will change and service delivery, be it private corporate service delivery or public agency service delivery, will actually shift and morph given this much, much larger access to data? Are there any kind of views on how that will play out?
Well, the space is evolving, is the short answer. The use cases for 5G are evolving as we speak. But what's being talked about, and not a lot of this is being delivered yet, because the networks are still in their infancy. But what's being talked about is just use cases like in medicine, virtual having a speed of data transfer via cameras that are incredibly powerful, that allows virtual diagnosis and virtual interaction with operations over a network that we're prepared to put people's lives in doctors' hands. Where there's talk of efficiencies in transport networks beyond what we've got currently, where if conditions change or people volumes change or something happens in certain parts of a network, then the network adapts in real time and delivers more efficient mobility for people. There's the security benefits that I mentioned before, where just massive amounts of real-time data can be moved around for emergency situations to deliver safety outcomes. These are some of the things that are being talked about, but as I say, there's very few places where you can experience a 5G network, so it's just not operating. What's happening is the planning, and we're part of that planning. So we're, as I said, working with all of the carriers how to deploy it. They want us to speak to cities on behalf of how how that's being deployed. My point is, the use cases are evolving. I think there's real opportunity. The carriers wouldn't be investing in 5G the way they are if they didn't believe that it was going to deliver some, either personal benefits or societal benefits.
Daniel, just to supplement Bob's comments, one of the benefits of you being based in Southeast Queensland is the 5G Innovation Centre that's at Southport on the Gold Coast. And I think we're going to see more and more of these sort of touch and feel labs and studios pop up by the telcos. I know Spark in New Zealand have got one up and running in Auckland. But if anyone on the line is in Southeast Queensland or can get to Southeast Queensland and is really interested in this, Telstra do have a space set up on Southport. I visited it about 2 years ago. It's been there for a while. And when I was there 2 years ago, they had around about sort of 5 to 8 use cases that were very, very diverse. You walk around the room and sort of experience or see the various use cases. There was gaming, there was city planning and modeling, there was robotics, there was remote asset maintenance and operation using, camera goggles and a whole range of things. So I was quite blown away at the number of use cases, and that was 2 years ago. So Bob, I certainly agree that no doubt this is evolving day by day. Jeff has put a question up in there. Jeff, do you want to speak to that? Councils being in a position to influence policy, how active are they in planning for 5G? Was that specifically to greenfield sites and communities?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm working with a client at the moment, which is a sort of Western Melbourne council, and they've got they're a high growth suburb. They've got a lot of new assets coming in. And my question to them is, are you ensuring that the developer is building that asset future-proof, already enabled for 5G? And my sort of question is, what are you seeing with councils? Are they thinking along those lines where they can influence what the developers are doing? Can they force them? Can they mandate it through policy, or simply encourage them to make sure that greenfield sites are 5G future-proofed? Because I think there's a revenue opportunity there, and you don't want to build a dumb building from day one. You want it to be a smart asset.
Absolutely. So first of all, there are maturity levels across councils and a range of awareness levels across councils, but that awareness level is increasing all the time, due in no small part to the efforts of Adam and the Smart Cities Council and industry people like myself. The councils that we're dealing with, one, are aware of their ability to push back, but two, are evolving strategies where they pre-approve and they pre-approve some apps that are to them, and then they communicate to the developer one our pre-approved outcome have a faster approval process in terms of speed of DA applications and what have you. So absolutely the land authorities are starting to develop strategies or one, make their choices, but then two, develop strategies to start to get controlled outcomes, not outcomes that are just forced upon them.
Thanks, Bob and Jeff, for that question. Azadeh has a question. Azadeh, over to you.
I think I don't have a very great discussion. Firstly, regarding because my research actually is about 5G and beyond 5G, 5G, 6G, and it's a very interesting topic to discuss. And as Bob said, it's more about use cases rather than just like having faster data. It's about adding more use cases to city design. One solution for it called MIMO, and use some techniques of beamforming to resolve that issue. So if you're interested, you can search on that. So about the city design, as Bob said, I want to add that the new networking infrastructure that they're going to work on actually 5G at the same time, and also opening doors to startups and vendors to bring in some smart applications like using artificial intelligence, everything, to like making all of those cool smart cities applications available. And it's not like only for people who live in cities, but also in rural areas, which is really cool.
We've got a really bad line. You're very hard to hear. Have you got a question for Bob, or just to hear you?
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, sure. I think. No, I just want to add this first thank Bob, and also add to what you mentioned regarding use cases and the beamforming and MIMO to answer that question on one way.
That would be great. Got a question here from Andrew. 5G Oran, neural host platform.
Oran. Yeah, look, neutral host is the same language shared infrastructure that can be used by a range of parties, and a supporter and a active participant in the neutral host. And view my initial comment or is the telecommunications industry. It's a global that purpose. So my view is, and we've worked hard to get the carriers to embrace it, and but importantly, they're sharing infrastructure with cities. So
excellent. And Andrew, thanks. On the survey now, I've pushed us to the next question, a bit of a provocative one. Open text field. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Simple question, but inherently complex, of course. Would love your views. Now, again, answering this question through the lens of city design and quality of public respect. What's wrong? thoughts. So that.
Carriers and utilities get ahead of them and they lose control. I'm not sure what. Yeah, look, I think equity, accessibility, and inclusion. I think that's a good one, because right now cities are dealing with that issue of connectivity through the delivery of free public Wi-Fi, which means, through free Wi-Fi, all tiers of society information service. So, so I think it's important don't fully rely on 4G and 5. And a lot of cities have already deployed free public Wi-Fi networks, but I think it's important that all cities and most cities do recognise that free Wi-Fi is a solution to social inclusion. I think solutions that ultimately remove freedoms. Yeah. Well, I think we have three carriers. If by that, if one carrier was imposing conditions or limitations on us as individuals, then we have some choice there. Yeah, I think slow uptake of 5G and slow implementation into public spaces. Yeah. Telstra today announced withdrawal of a major investor, now threatens its 5G rollout. Maybe an ambit claim, probably. I think it is an ambit claim. They've just spent $280 million buying millimetre wave spectrum. And, Enerhub has a meeting every week with the Telstra technical team to integrate its 5G active antennas and its millimetre wave radios and antennas. So I think it'll happen. Like it's a year's. It's not going to happen by the end of this year. It's a 5-year. This is a 5-year proposition, and with the advent of 5G and the phasing out of 3G and then the introduction of 6G, network design and network development is an evolving thing. In the end, it's a way of kind of delivering packets of information to us to say, now we're in 4G, the 4th generation world. We're about to move to the 5th generation world. What that means is a whole range of kind of imprecise and varied technological outcomes. It's a way for the telecommunications market to deliver a message to us that we're now, we're going to the iPhone 12. We're going to the 5th generation. It's just a way of taking us on the journey with them to faster speeds and larger amounts of data. So I think it is an ambit claim.
Yeah. Okay. Bob, thanks for that. I think this is the last question. Would be keen to hear everyone's views around what you think the biggest barriers might be to advancing great place outcomes. There's quite a sort of diversity of little prompts that I've put down there. Again, a get out of jail card in the form of other. But I've sort of particularly picked 4 there that I think might be barriers that are more prominent than others. But would love your views. What do you think might be the biggest barriers to advancing great outcomes? Lack of the value of place? Is regulation going to get in the way? Do our cities and planners and other practitioners kind of just, not there yet and sort of it happens too quickly? or indeed from a 5G urban infrastructure perspective, we deliver just poor quality design. You know, we just bolt kit and bits to existing poles that have kit and bits, or indeed an other. And I've noticed that there's a handful of responses there under other. Would you mind popping your other in the chat box? We'd love to sort of see what the other biggest barriers are.
Adam, could I do that by phone?
Certainly, Catherine. Yes, please.
I jump in. My other is I'm really concerned that the awareness raising campaign will not be successful. There's already a lot of community opposition building, I think mainly based on hearsay from the experience in the UK. And I'm really concerned that, well, I guess my primary concern is that the marketing and awareness raising campaign must address those concerns from the get-go, from the very get-go.
Yeah, Catherine, I can't agree with you more there, that our engagement generally among stakeholders, you know, government, community, private sector, has been suboptimal, and that's probably been polite. So yes, and as I mentioned, anyone else who wants to share what their other was, please pop that in the chat box. I've just noticed Andrew's put a point in there as well for us to potentially keep a watching brief on, that NEC is going to be standing up a bit of a showcase center of different sort of capabilities coming. Andrew, is there an ETA on that? Is that a 2021 opportunity? Is it sort of, you know, further out?
No, Adam, we're a foundation partner with the New South Wales government in the Greater Western Sydney development, and as part of that, we're working quite closely with the DPIE and the Western Parkland City Authority. And part of the Smart City Accelerator program is 5G open radio access network neutral host trials, and NEC has a submission on the desk of the DPIE at the moment to put a proof of concept in market around this initiative. So it's imminent.
Yeah. That's excellent, and thank you for sharing. They're the kinds of things that we want to make sure that we can showcase to others, and there's no better way than to sort of get out and touch and feel it. Daniel, you've got your hand up. Yes.
I was just going to mention that in that pre-discussion that we had on 5G a few weeks ago, when there was that mistaken timing for this meeting, we did have a pretty good back and forth informally over the communications issues around 5G and what we've just discussed. And just, you know, the comments were made around with 3G and 4G, there was, it appeared to be much more strategically implemented across government and in the private sector, whereas with 5G, it seems much more haphazard.
Yeah. Yep. Azadeh had a question up there. How should operators communicate with citizens and their end users to convince them? A little bit similar to Catherine's point there. Bob, are we there yet in terms of a good communication and engagement campaign? Do we know if one's coming? I thought the parliamentary inquiry into 5G, whenever it released its report, had that as sort of a key outcome, and I thought in the budget there was a chunk of change to help really start that. Have you heard or seen anything?
What I've heard is, like, at a local council level, that they're unhappy that the backlash is happening at that level. They believe it is a federal message that needs to be put out, and most people agree that not enough has been done at that federal level. No one's going to trust a message from the carriers themselves. So, but what I'm hearing is that the federal government needs to do more in terms of communicating the safety message and the benefit message around 5G. You know, what's happening is people are just seeing it coming, and they're seeing all of the messaging from the carriers, and they're feeling like it's a bit out of control. And you know, in that situation, they're uncomfortable, and therefore they, you know, they push back on it. And any reason not to engage and get ahead of it is not a good outcome. So
yeah, okay. Well, we'll continue to have some conversations at the Smart Cities Council, but for now, friends, we've got to wrap up here. I wanted to just draw your attention to a couple of things that are on the horizon with our Future of Place project. For those that are in Brisbane or Southeast Queensland and can get here on the 25th of August, our Future of Place Summit is happening. Really looking forward to that. futureofplacesummit.com. You get a sense of what we're going to be talking about and who's going to be engaged. And also, if you don't have the weekly Future of Place little e-newsletter hitting your inbox, I know you don't need more junk in the in tray, but we keep it pretty short. Three items we usually share. So futureofplace.global to sign up there. Otherwise, we're done, friends. We're at time. Wanted to, on behalf of our participants today, Bob, thank you for jumping in and providing a bit of expert commentary. Also, for those on the line, I hope there's been some good intelligence gathering. There's certainly been a bit of sharing, and appreciate your active participation. Hoping everyone stays safe and healthy, dodges the COVID bullets that are flying around, and really has a fantastic rest of the week. Thanks so much for joining us today.
thanks everyone. Thanks, Adam.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.